Welcome back to our Heart of a Lion series. We've been learning about some amazingly brave and faithful people that you can learn about in the Bible, in the book of Daniel. They had lion hearts because they chose to honor God no matter what happened to them and what they faced, and they were really brave and strong.
Wow, it's great to be back again today. I absolutely love hearing about these stories about brave people because it inspires me to be brave too and to love God like they did.
First, we learned about how Daniel and his friends were taken captive and they were given all kinds of food to eat that they weren't allowed to eat according to God's law. So they asked to be given just vegetables, and after a few days they were stronger, healthier, and wiser than anyone else. They stood up for what they believed in to be right, even though they were prisoners, and even though it was a real risk to do that and to not eat the king's food.
Yes, especially since the king was crazy and liked to throw people into fires.
Exactly. Last week we learned about how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to bow down and worship the statue that the king had made of himself, and so they got thrown into a fiery furnace. But God was with them, and they didn't get hurt. They didn't even smell like smoke when they came out of that fire, even though they should have been burnt to smithereens. Those guys decided that honoring God was more important to them than their lives. But God rescued them, and everyone realized that their God was the true and most powerful God.
I absolutely love that story. God is really strong and powerful.
He definitely is, Samba. And we should always honor and obey him. When we do what God asks us to do, it keeps us safe. But when we disobey and disrespect God, it generally doesn't go very well for us. The king in today's story learned that the hard way.
Oh no, that doesn't sound good. Let's find out what happens.
After King Nebuchadnezzar died, King Belshazzar took over Babylon. He was an evil king who didn't respect or listen to God at all. One night he had a huge party and invited 1,000 important guests. During the party he remembered that he had special silver and golden goblets, these are like cups, that they had stolen from God's temple in Jerusalem. They had been stored in a special place, but Belshazzar told his servants to bring them out for the party, and that even though they were really special things that came from the temple, he was going to use them for the party. This just showed how little the king respected God or cared that his people had stolen these things from the temple. Suddenly, in the middle of the party, a human hand appeared out of nowhere and started writing words on the palace wall. When the king saw the floating hand, he was terrified and nearly fainted. The hand had written words he didn't understand, so he called all his advisors in and said to them, "Whoever can read this writing and tell me what this means will become the third most powerful person in my kingdom. He will wear robes of purple and a gold chain around his neck." All the king's advisors and officials came to look at the words, but none of them could understand them. So they got even more scared. The king's face was as white as a sheet. Suddenly, the queen remembered about Daniel and that God had given him amazing wisdom. She remembered that Daniel could interpret dreams and make sense of strange things. So she told the king to call him. Daniel was called and came before the king. The king told him, "If you can read this writing and tell me what it means, you will become the third most powerful man in my kingdom. You will wear a purple robe and have a gold chain around your neck." Daniel answered, "Your Majesty, I will read the writing and tell you what it means, but you may keep your gifts and give them to someone else." Daniel said, "God made your father Nebuchadnezzar a great powerful king, and he made your nation great. But your father became proud and stubborn and didn't listen to God. So God took his kingdom away from him. You knew how great and powerful God is, and yet you still refused to honor him. Instead, you hardened your heart and disrespected him by drinking out of the goblets from his temple. You refuse to worship the God who gives you breath and controls everything you do. That is why God has sent this hand to write a message on the wall. The words that were written on the wall were Mene, Tekel, Parsin. Daniel explained to the king, Mene means numbered. God has numbered the days that you will rule, and that your kingdom will be strong and powerful. He is going to bring it to an end. Tekel means weighed. God has weighed and tested you, and you fall short and are not worthy of being a king. Parsin means divided, which means that God is going to divide up your kingdom between other kings. Even though the king was terrified about this bad news, he kept his promise and made Daniel the third most powerful man in Babylon. That same night, the king was killed, and another king called Darius took over his kingdom.
Whoa, that's intense. The king didn't respect God at all, and he got what was coming to him.
Yep, our memory verse reminds us that God will honor and protect those who honor him, but he also deals with those who don't honor him. There are consequences for the choices we make. When our hearts are hard and we don't live God's way, we almost always end up getting hurt or hurting others.
Do you remember the memory verse and the memory verse rap?
I'll honor those who honor me. Can't you see? Choose carefully. Do what's right. Put God first. Have a lion heart in a crazy world. I will honor those who honor me. Can't you see? Choose carefully. Do what's right. Put God first. Have a lion heart in a crazy world. Hey, I will honor those who honor me. Can't you see? Choose carefully. Do what's right. Put God first. Have a lion heart in a crazy world. Hey.
We need to have a lion heart in this crazy world. It's not always easy to honor God and to choose to live his way, but it's always the best way. We need courage and faith to follow Jesus, but it's an amazing adventure that is always worthwhile.
Thanks for joining us again today. See you next week for a story that's not just about people with lion hearts, but actually has lions in it. It's my favorite one in the whole Bible.
Of course, it's your favorite, Simba. We'll see you next time.
See you.
Bum, 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 bum.